Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to BookTrek 2021. This is a 5-month mission that I've embarked on with a bunch of other booktubers, where we're reading Star Trek books. The vast ocean of Star Trek books, starting in August with the original series. So all the endless novels that came out about the original series, we're reading those in August. And we don't have any set reading list. Each host is just reading whatever they pick. You know, it's not like we've picked one book and we're all reading it together. Instead, everybody's just running far afield, finding whatever they have that fits the original series, whether it's an original novel, original novelization, whether it's the animated series, the movies, whatever time period of this original incarnation. I mentioned yesterday that Star Trek is one of the first popular science fiction franchises to introduce the concept of time, where it's not just that the characters sometimes go through time warps and meet older versions of themselves, which are the actors in old person prosthesis. It's that time itself passes with the same actors in the same roles, so that they become old. The actors themselves become old, and we're not bouncing around in time anymore. In the later Star Trek canonical movies, pre-Kelvin timeline canonical movies, the characters have seen it all. They have been around for decades, and that's reflected in the books as well. You can bounce all around in time in the books. It depends on what period the author wants to write in. And the book I picked for today really illustrates that. This is by Peter David, and it's called The Rift. And it's a novel in which, as you might be able to tell if you're familiar with the visual iconography of Star Trek, it's a novel in which late in his canonical career, Captain Kirk, so this would be around the time of Star Trek V, maybe Star Trek VI, he and his seasoned crew encounter a space-time rift that it opens to another quadrant of the galaxy, far too far away for a starship to reach conveniently and back. And that rift opens for a short period of time every 33 years, and then closes again. And strands the civilization on the other end of that, the civilization that is the heart of this book. It makes the distance between them and the Federation totally impassable. And the Enterprise learns about this thing, and needless to say, I mean, Peter David is a very popular Star Trek novelist. I'd be willing to bet that a lot of you out there think that, I'd be willing to bet he's one of your favorite Star Trek novelists. I'm going to have to explore that. I made a point in this version of BookTrek, not to go straight to any of my own favorite Star Trek authors. Made a point of not doing that. So I'm just not revisiting people I already love. And I've never actually loved Peter David's Star Trek. Not any of it. I've never hated it, but I've never actually loved it either. He seems a little too slangy, just a little bit too quick with the quip. So that I get the impression when I read his stuff that it doesn't have to be Star Trek. I know that that's silly, because a lot of Star Trek novels in every iteration of the show were written by hired gun freelancers who didn't care about Star Trek at all. I knew a couple of those people, so I know that's true. I still like it rubbed in my face that the author, that I'm going to tell this ba-dum-bum quip, and I don't really care if it's Star Trek that gives me the opportunity to do that, or Babylon 5, or whatever. I just want to tell the quip. He also came up with a Star Trek spin-off series called New Frontier that I have wanted to like. I have wanted to like that series. And I don't at all. I've never liked any of Peter David's comics either. I don't think the guy and I are on the right wavelength at all. But in this novel, he's playing with time, not only in that, predictably, the plot involves the threat that the delegation that Jim Kirk sends through that rift when it opens, including Mr. Spock, will be stranded there for 33 years if something goes wrong at the other end, if they are taken hostage, for instance, as they are at the other end. If things wait too long, the rift will close, and they'll be 33 years older the next time you see them. There's not only that playing around with time, there's also the fact that this rift has been opening and closing for a long time. And Peter David takes advantage of that, as you can sort of see on this cover, by showing us a lot. The beginning of this book, a large chunk of the beginning of this book, is the Enterprise under Captain Pike, with number one as his first officer, with Lieutenant Spock as his science officer, with Dr. Boyce as his ship's doctor, and a whole bunch of other things. An earlier version of the Enterprise that we only see glimpses of in the original show. It was the original version that Roddenberry was kind of sort of thinking of. I'm glad that he didn't. I'm glad that he gave us a far more charismatic crew than what we got otherwise. But one way or another, that the Pike Enterprise has been an endless source of speculation for fan fiction, endlessly magnetic for people wanting to write novels. And Peter David is obviously one of those people, because he spends a large chunk of his time on that early Enterprise. So we're playing around with different time periods in a couple of different ways. And there are also, one thing I've noticed about Peter David that I kind of sort of like, although I think he overindulges it, again, here I think he's just lazy about it, is that he seems to be steeped in Star Trek. Whether he loves it or not, I don't know, but he seems to be steeped in it. His books always give you lots of great callbacks to the original show. Always, they do. Including, in this book, Dr. Richard Daystrom, a character that we meet once in the original show, in an episode called The Ultimate Computer, in which we learned that he was the boy genius who designed the extremely advanced computer circuitry of the USS Enterprise, and presumably every other starship in the fleet, and has been sort of rancorously stewing in faded glory ever since, and has a nervous breakdown in The Ultimate Computer. A terrific, terrific episode. I loved that episode. Loved the interplay between it. Loved especially one little piece of dialogue that Spock gives to Kirk about how a starship also runs on loyalty to one man, and nothing can ever replace it or him. Chill goes up my spine when I hear that, even now. And I already loved that episode. And then one time when I was up in Vermont visiting Margaret Richardson and Richard Reed's, and we were in the old house, and it was really late at night, and the wine had been flowing, and he put in The Ultimate Computer, and I got a chance to see it with the newly retinkered special effects, and was completely blown away. Just completely blown away. How tastefully done it was, but how it makes the episode feel so science fiction-y, I guess. One way or another, I loved that episode, and Peter David obviously does too, because he goes back to Richard Daystrom. His Richard Daystrom in this book is still reeling from his nervous breakdown in that episode, but he is trying to regain his reputation, not only for sanity, so he doesn't have to be watched all the time, but also for genius. And he gets a great chance. The final act of this book hits a lot of great notes. Whether I like Peter David's writing style, maybe that's what it comes down to. Whether I like that or not, the final act of this book will put a smile on your face. If you're a Star Trek fan, it'll put a smile on your face. And I liked a lot of the speculation about Pike's Enterprise. I liked a lot of that. I don't really know what to expect of Strange New Worlds, the proposed Alex Kurtzman Star Trek TV series set on Pike's Enterprise, with Captain Pike and Number One and Spock and all the brightly colored primary color uniforms and whatnot. Actually, that's not completely true. I say I don't know what to expect, but I think I do know what to expect. I think I do know exactly what to expect. Unless Alex Kurtzman is not allowed to work on it. If he has anything to do with it, then I think I know what to expect, and it won't be good. It'll be just one more tiny pocket of some part of the original continuity of the original series Star Trek that he gets to desecrate, apparently with the full approval of his corporate bosses at Paramount. Despite the fact that fans almost universally hate this stuff. They almost universally hate anything that he touches when it comes to Star Trek. And they reflect that hatred not only with voluminous vitriol, but with rock-bottom ratings. You would think that any big production company, even one that had money to burn, and I think after the pandemic, none of them have money to burn. If Disney's hurting, everybody's hurting. You would think that a big company like that would have a moment, a stark, black and white moment in a boardroom where they say, I don't care whether or not you like this guy. He is clearly losing us lots and lots of money. So we want him gone. Get rid of him. Do it right away. Don't rehire him for 15 years. Get rid of him. He's costing us lots of money. He is actively driving away the people who support this franchise. And this franchise has made us all lots of money. Well, if he's doing that, and we know that he's doing that, if it's not just happenstance, then get rid of him. But one way or another, because he has been rehired and because he's been given this golden, gigantic contract, unless he's forcibly kept away from Strange New Worlds, he will ruin it. And so, it makes it all the more touching that we have little realizations like this all throughout Star Trek fiction. There is no ongoing series set on Pike's Enterprise. In the books, I mean. Pike's Enterprise crops up a lot in Star Trek fiction. I imagine we'll hit it again in the course of August. It crops up a lot, and it has a lot of different explanations, especially number one. The character of number one. Who's one of Star Trek's founding enigmas. And there are all sorts of fan theories about that, but nothing canon. So, that's fascinating. That's fascinating on its own. Back in the 1960s and the 1970s, when there wasn't any Star Trek, the number one fan speculation was that the reason number one is so cool and collected, and also the reason why we never see number one's ears, is because she's a Vulcan. One way or another, absolutely fascinating stuff. Fascinating, no pun intended, in the early part of this book. Lieutenant Spock realizes, hears number one say the term fascinating, and thinks, oh, I should probably nick that. I should probably adopt that as my own signature catchphrase. One or another, even though I don't really agree with Peter David's style, even though it seems a little bit class clown goofy to me, I end up, on one level anyway, enjoying his books, even his Next Generation books. We'll be seeing a couple of his Next Generation books next month. But this one, as a standalone Star Trek novel, it won't work for a non-Star Trek fan. I'm not 100% sure that the powers that be behind these pocketbook paperbacks had anything else in mind. I honestly think that most of the time they didn't care. Most of the time I think they probably thought, we're marketing and selling these things to Star Trek fans. We're not expecting to bring in new fans with a book. This one I don't think would. It's very accessibly written, but it's steeped in Star Trek lore. I don't think the dilemma alone would work. If you did keep reading, you would certainly enjoy the character play. And the threat, when the first delegation through that rift is kidnapped, the threat arises, could they be gone for 33 years? Would that be really bad? The specter of that is raised early by the original Enterprise. And also, Peter David has mastered the art of upping the narrative stakes. So it's not just that Kirk has to resolve that missing crew, it's that he becomes part of another delegation himself, leaving Sulu to deal with the threat of interspatial war on his side of the rift. So it's got all sorts of burners, boiling pots, and that's, on one level, very satisfying. So I'm not really sure I'm articulating the but here, but nevertheless, maybe there isn't one. Maybe I've just been that. Maybe that's part of the joy of this BookTrek, is that I will start to drop old axes that I've been grinding for decades. Maybe I don't dislike Peter David's Star Trek fiction. Maybe I'm holding it to some irrational standard. One way or another, if you're a Star Trek fan already, you don't have to be a great Star Trek fan, a deep in the lore Star Trek fan. You're going to enjoy this book. One thing I can say about Peter David that I can't say about a lot of Star Trek authors that I'm going to choose for BookTrek is that he is very entertaining. If you are willing to meet him on the grounds of fandom, you won't think the book is dull at all. So there you go. That's your Star Trek book for today. We'll see if there are any Star Trek books this weekend. As I've mentioned in a couple of other videos today, I am feeling like this week was a little excessive on my part in terms of preying on your patience. I've uploaded a lot of content, hours and hours and hours of content. It's all been bookish. I haven't strayed much from the focus of this channel, and Lord knows, I know it's no defense, but Lord knows I could easily do twice as much as I've done. There's so much bookish stuff to talk about, so much. But even so, if I'm uploading an hour-long video every day, plus other videos every day, that seems excessive. But one way or another, this is going to be my last video for the day. We're sticking to 3 videos today, no more. This will not be a 5-video day. And then we'll see about the weekend. The weekend, I know, is when I said I would answer the questions for my August Q&A. And I do need to do that, but that tends to be 5 videos, which doesn't really help the problem of supersaturating the BookTube airwaves with Steve. It doesn't really help. I am not, obviously, if you've been watching this channel, in my own defense, you know I am not doing this to game an algorithm. I don't want any more subscribers. I don't want to be the sexy influencer that I am. It's just, there's so much to talk about, and I enjoy it. But with the Q&A this weekend, a couple other things this weekend, we shall see. Maybe I'm worrying for nothing. Maybe I'll just chatter, and if you don't want to watch, you don't have to. Right? So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, and this is my 3rd and final video for today. So only 3 videos today, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.